last time.
You know, it's kind of funny because I was watching him, and 2 minutes ago, while we had the video playing, he was kind of giggling and smiling to himself a little bit, but it seems like he was kind of psyching himself up and getting excited because I think he's got to kind of get in the zone to beat this guy down here because this guy's already got the supporting pool. In the bottom left-hand side, in the blue, the Korean Zerg, the world champion, it's Dark.
And up here on the top right-hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player, the Finnish phenom from SC2. He is Serral.
I have to hope that his micro is ready to deal with this. He says hello, and he's got a smile on his face. Let's see if he's got that smile on his face when these Zerglings rush across the map, because this is a 12 pool. Basically, no workers built for Dark at all at the start of this game, going immediately for the fastest spawning pool, and he's going to be running across the map with 10 to 14 Zerglings, putting on very heavy pressure. The goal here is to kill a whole bunch of Serral's drones. On the plus side, maybe snipe the hatchery as well. Probably not going to be super possible. And he is just going to take an expansion behind that. Interestingly, Dark does go for a gas before the expansion. So it's likely going to be a Zergling flood with Ling speed a couple minutes after the first attack. So this is a layered rush coming out of Dark.
Indeed, 3 workers already put on gas over there for Dark, so this attack, first and foremost, is going to be the thing that Serral has to deal with. And Serral sending 1 drone down to the low ground. Interesting, is he trying to get some extra vision of the Lings, or just trying to deny them? What was he scouting for there?
I'm not 100% sure. That was interesting, seeing maybe if there was a hatchery building to get a spine crawler down. You can build a hatchery, cancel it, and then put a spine crawler down quickly on the creep there. So that is a way you can set up to make this a fiercer push. Of course, that's not the case. Serral's going to pull drones. His aim is not to overwhelm the Zerglings, just to nip at them, force them to stop attacking the hatchery, and then pull back. He just wants to distract these Zerglings for long enough to buy time for his Zerglings to get out, but he's already lost 1 drone. His own Zerglings, oh, they barely escape getting surrounded, but they take a lot of damage. Dark, he wants to get more damage. This is not enough just yet, but look how many Lings he's got.
Yeah, it looks like Dark has already lost 1 or 2 of his Lings there, as a few more of Serral's do manage to pop out. And now that the Queen is out, that is one of the magical moments that really shuts this down for Dark. It's so hard to get additional damage done. But like you were saying before, Pig, this is a 2-layered or 2-tiered attack. There is a faster Zergling speed for Dark, and it's kind of funny because I feel like usually when you see this 12 pool attack, it is usually getting your hatchery before your gas geyser, and sometimes even foregoing Zergling speed entirely. So I wonder, is Serral going to get caught off guard by the speed of the Zergling speed here?
Yeah, thankfully his own Ling speed's not too far behind, but he is droning very hard. Now he comes in there, his Zergling scout gets denied. No safety precautions for Serral other than the extra queen. If he really wants to wall off. For him, it's all going to be about walling off as quickly as possible. He's got a Baneling nest on the way, but it's not going to be ready in time. If he can get a triple Evo wall at the front, he should be okay.
Nothing but Lings in production. You guys have to remember that it is 14 workers right now for Dark, and Serral has 28. Now going down a little bit lower with some of those buildings being made. But this is an all-in in every single way.
Oh, those Lings snuck across the map super early. The first Evo chamber gets broken down there. Oh, nice wall off by Serral. Is it going to be enough, though? He's got to pull drones. Oh, he pulls his queens back from the wall. A huge mistake. Oh, is it actually an amazing job? How did he get back to the other ramp? I cannot believe he saved both of those queens. He's even getting the Zerglings through, and I think this has bought barely enough time, has it? I don't know. Dark's getting up that ramp. He's getting the wraparound. Those Banelings on the low ground not able to finish. If Dark can focus those 2 Banelings down, I think he's going to overwhelm this.
Yeah, the Ling's darting around inside of Serral's main base for a moment, but he realizes that there is a Baneling out now already inside the main base, making it very difficult for him to do a whole lot. He is able to snipe off that Baneling, though, and now that that Baneling is gone, he's going to try and move in, try and find a couple of drones. He needs to find some damage. Remember, it's still Serral up about 11 workers. This is not enough yet for Dark.
Yeah, right now, almost double the worker count for Serral. A few of them going down, having to, of course, use your workers as combatants, not what you want. Oh, he's only got one Baneling there. No, he blows it up accidentally on his own hatchery. Miss micro from Serral. And that's going to be that, I think. Dark gets us around the Queen as it pops. He's just taking out all of these units now. It's just workers versus Zerglings, and Serral is forced to tap out. Wow. Dark there with a big gamble in map 1, but he gets the win, and that was a very, very good way to start the series.
So I feel like, Peg, I have to go over this. Like, it's one of those moments that I need to, like, re-watch to confirm this. But I know that there are some Zerg players that have these, like, little secret ways that they have of abusing those lings versus those kind of queen walls. And I think that you saw a lot of, like, attacking and then move commanding and then attacking and move commanding with the lings as they were butting up against the queens. And I think some Zerg players, I've got told this by Panda Bear and me, have figured out how to actually inch even held position queens a little bit. And Scarlet has done this before. We've seen this a few times in tournaments, but I think he was actually able to sneak in through the queens by using that kind of little like forced movement effectively from those Zerglings. And then Serral had a great response, like you were saying, but it wasn't quite enough. There just weren't enough units behind it, just barely.
Yeah, you know, I would, this is one of those things, you need to go on normal game speed slower than the faster game speed, and you need to like rewind 5, 6, 7 times in the replay to truly understand exactly what happened. My feeling is actually that Serral simply didn't want to lose the queens and chose to pull them back. And the moment he tried to pull the queens back to safety and kind of shuffle the Zerglings in front, because Dark was spamming move commands, the moment they weren't on hold position, creating a solid wall, he was able to just kind of force his way in and get too much surface area. And I do think that was a mistake from Serral. I would argue that because Serral was so far ahead on workers, the most important thing is wherever the fight starts, hold that choke point and do not let them beyond that point at any cost. So I feel like he should have just pulled his entire natural worker line and attacked with them there. And if he had enough Zerglings and drones behind the queens, maybe he could shuffle the queens back, but it's very dangerous, as we saw, because the moment you give up the hold position, you could see the way Darklings kind of pushed everything out of the way. It was almost like a cavalry charge, right? Where they're like pushing the foot soldiers out and creating this avenue into the base.
Yeah, regardless whoever wins this one, Pig, I feel like that I'm going to appreciate that recap video that we get at the end of every series so much, because I need to relive that moment and see exactly what happened over there. But regardless, like you said, Serral giving up that position, it meant that he was relying on like that one Baneling in the main to completely zone out all those lings. It just didn't end up working out quite how he wanted. And now we have Dark up 1-0 in a best of 3. And I know that this is just the group stage. I know it's not like, oh, if Serral loses this, he's out of the tournament. But this is an important match. Serral isn't just one of the players who should be doing pretty well. Serral's the player who we're like, he's supposed to have. It's not like we think he probably could win a Katowice. He's supposed to have won a Katowice by now, right? Like, he's supposed to be able to get out in first place in his group. He's supposed to be able to actually beat a lot of these other players. So I feel like this is, to me, it's like such an important match for Serral to just get started with the day. It's match number 2. This is an important match for him.
Indeed, and I think this is just textbook Dark as well. On the other side, you know, maybe a little bit of adversity for Serral would actually be good for him, since he often dominates the group stage, struggles in the bracket stage of Katowice. But Dark, on the other hand, he's a guy who is so unpredictable. He could play such a good macro game. We saw it in his previous series. Like, there was a moment where he did not look like he was in good shape in that second map of the Zerg vs Terran before, but Dark just rallies, he pulls things together, and at no point does he feel like he's just trying to ensure himself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really just a sign of like a world-class player. Dark is so good with these kind of things. He's so good with these aggressive situations. And it's one of those things where I feel like you see like the tried and true champions that are just throwing out those cheeses in game 1, setting the pace and kind of just trying to throw your opponent off. Now, the nice thing is I don't think Serral's the player that gets tilted ever, or like very, very rarely does he seem to get very tilted. So I'm sure that he's going to be able to come into game number 2 with a clear head and clear mind and show us some great games. I'm kind of with what Wardy said. I really just want to see at least one solid like macro game where these two are butting heads, though.
Indeed. I think this is going to be interesting to see how the series rounds out from here, because it's such a momentum advantage. Once you can put a little bit of fear into your opponent at the beginning of a match like that, and you say, you got to watch out, mate. There's going to be a lot of things that I could throw your way. You can't take anything for granted. And this is the point where Dark can run away with a series, because he's very good at playing the tempo game throughout. We saw this, so many different times, didn't we? Where Dark has just absolutely looked amazing. Of course, that big finals versus Raynor, same sort of scenario. Once Dark has the tempo, it almost feels like the opponent's worried about his Roachnitis and he goes Mutalisks. You're worried about the Ling Bane attack and he was super greedy and just gets up to 3 base economy earlier than you are. Dark is the sort of player who's very good at kind of knowing how to play the poker game within StarCraft and limit the information. And I could tell you what, he's definitely, I think, got Serral's kind of hair standing on end a little bit. He's going to be really looking to scout exceptionally well. And anytime he can't scout, he's going to be a little bit worried. So Dark is going to be very focused on just kind of, I think, denying a lot of information in the next few games.
Yeah, that's so important in ZVZ, right? I remember actually a long time ago, I was like, Pig, ZVZ confounds me. Teach me about ZVZ. And I remember like the clearest thing you were telling me was just information, like so what can the Overlord see, what can the Lings see, being able to identify when your opponent is making drones or when they're starting to shift into a particular tech, or finding all of these little even army movement positions is so key in ZVZ. Things happen so fast because Lings are incredibly fast units. You have, of course, even like the creep spread helping the speed of all of your units and everything. Like, you just have to always be on top of things. You cannot let those little information gaps like trip you up. And I think Serral traditionally has been unbelievably good at that. I think that used to be in 2018 when Serral was basically an untouchable god amongst StarCraft players. That was like one of the biggest things I think he really got to pride himself on. So if there's anyone I expect to be able to pull that out and really just keep an eye on what Dark's up to, I think it's Serral, but Dark has definitely shown that he's still pretty tricky about it.
Yep, and that is Zerg versus Zerg. Lots of mind games, lots of variety. Gone are the days where it was just a bit of a roach headbutt off, 40, 50 drones, 60 drones if you were lucky. It's much more variety. The fact that Muta Zergling, Baneling, the fact that there's a Lurker Viper late game as a style, that, all sorts and manner of roach rushes and Zergling, Baneling attacks exist. Even Ravager Zergling with +1 carapace is a very common build order. So I think there's so many different options that both players are capable of. They've both shown over the last couple of years that their range really is there, and they're definitely going to be capable of pulling out a few different strategies. My mind kind of rewinding that last game internally, as I'm sure Serral has been done. I think definitely he's got to be wary about the way attacks get set up by Dark. In that last game, he saw Dark's early Zerglings kind of walk past his Overlord back onto the map, I believe. But he kind of ignored them. It was like, oh, it's just your early Zerglings. But those were what set up the push that stopped him from walling off in that game. And cannot let this man get a head start at all. Up in the top left-hand side, looking for the 2-0 victory over the favorite. In the blue, it is, of course, Dark.
Down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player from ENCE Esports. He is Serral. All right, Pig. Well, I'm already a little bit relieved because I feel like there was a little bit in the back of my head. I was like, Dark is exactly the kind of player who would do something like 12 pool 2 games in a row or something just to get in his head.
I think if he was playing somebody else, definitely maybe a 13 gas, 12 pool, 1 base Ling Bane attack, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it just isn't going to work against Serral. Like, the reason that worked is because the first stage, I would say Dark was a little behind. Even though he forced a lot of drones to get pulled, he didn't really kill that much at all. I think he got 1 drone kill and a bunch of mining time. It was all about the surprise of the second wave, and you've used the surprise up. So I don't think the 12 pool definitely is there, but this is where Dark swaps into a different sort of gamble. This is where I think he might do something like just quick Mutalisks, a unit which Serral has traditionally struggled with and had real demons over. I mean, how many times have we seen Serral's Twitter feed after a loss to Raynor or somebody else, and he's like, man, I can't figure out when he's going Mutalisks. I struggle with Mutas. I can't find a solid response. I feel like, you know, I've got to just commit to like a blind Nidus Worm to punish it or something. And for Serral, I feel that's like a point when he's down in a series, he starts to worry about Mutalisks a lot. And I mean, if there's ever a time to do it here on Death Aura, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, we'll love to see if we can get to that stage of the game, if Dark is going to try and do one of those quick tech ups or something like that. But for now, I guess we still got to wait to see if they make it past this kind of mid-game stage. Usually in those 20 or so drone counts, that's when there's maybe an opportunity for one of these players to start flooding out a few more lings, trying to deny a third base, or just kind of putting on a little bit of speed link pressure here. And I feel like especially players like Dark and those Korean Zergs love to get in their opponent's face in that kind of early stage of the game there.
Death Aura, one of the longer rush distances in the map pool. One, though, with very defensible ramps up into your third base and that sort of thing as well. Some narrow choke points around. Serral's going to opt for the earlier Baneling Nest here. Both players going for a quick third base. Dark was only mining with one worker on gas, so he still might go for the Baneling Nest, but if he does, it's going to be a little bit of a later one as Dark starts a couple of Zerglings. So he's going to put some light pressure on. Just be active with those Zerglings. Doesn't look like a big commitment, but just enough to kind of push Serral back, scare him, maybe get him to make a couple of Banelings for safety.
Ooh. That's a few more lings. That's 16 more lings going to be coming on out, and he's starting to hide them inside of his main and his natural. He's actually starting to move out with some of the lings now. He's going to be moving underneath an Overlord as well. So that's what you were talking about. The not too many lings, but now the rest of them all start to pop, and Serral gets a great vision of all of this, sending in that scouting ling at the perfect moment. So important for Serral to realize what's happening.
And Serral's making a few Banelings. There's Zerglings skirmishing with those Zerglings, not letting them get free damage, and I love that early creep tumor. Something far too many Zergs have been skipping lately, but Serral says, no, I need mobility, because if you pull back from the third, rotate back, I need to be able to get my queens back up to the natural to defend. And you can see, well prepared. A lot of Zerglings do come on up there. Serral wants to wall off right now. He's not able to get that wall off going. Baneling split. Ooh, a good Baneling hit on the third, defends the queen over there. Zerglings slip into the main for Dark, but they're not going to find too much damage behind this. A Baneling nest on the way and more Zerglings. Dark down 4 workers, but the aggression won't stop there.
Yeah, a few lings did manage to survive there for Dark in the main base for a little bit with a slightly better trade there. But like you said, it looks like it is going to be kind of the end of that early bit of aggression for Dark, and relatively even worker counts at the end of the day now. So both these players get their layers started on up, with Serral having that Evo Chamber just a little bit faster, since it was kind of the part of his wall that he was trying to go for earlier.
Yeah, this looks like Roach versus Muta. could go Roaches, but I definitely think Serral's just in that kind of defensive stance right now. This Evo could easily be for melee upgrades. No Roach Warren at all just yet, and Dark definitely going to have 200 gas ready to go into Spire as soon as those the lair does finish. So yeah, this is a really nice way of playing. It's all about the mobility and kind of using your Zergling Baneling to strike in on the mineral lines, your Mutas to find weaknesses in the enemy anti-air. And on this map as well, I feel like there's... Once they get a 5th base, that's where they get really exposed on. 4 bases, if Serral does defend properly, like there's not that many ways in. And the Muta player has to be kind of creative if they want to find damage. So curious to see exactly how Dark does this. His Banelings and Zerglings do come in on this 3rd base. The Banelings all trade for each other. And Dark wants that Queen snipe. He does get it.
Yeah, nice being able to snipe that queen, and even going to be able to get a Baneling or 2. Yeah, finding a couple of these drones. Now the Roaches are popping on out, so looks like Dark will, actually gives up on that Roach that turns into a Ravager. More Lings coming in to reinforce, and he is going to be able to try and push back some of these Roaches while the rest of the Queens go down. Now that Ravager is finished up, so it is going to get picked off. And I feel like Dark is actually finding some really nice little trades over here, finding another Queen. That's got to be like the 3 or 4 Queens just the last minute.
Yeah, this is what we call a Dark timing. It's a sort of weird attack at a moment where you would never expect it. Technically not that powerful, but because it's unexpected, it actually becomes quite effective, and it does catch him off guard. Finally, Lings get in and see the Nidus Worm, though. Dark was already building Spine Crawlers behind this. A lot of Queen Roach is going to come out here for Serral, and that's going to be hard. Oh!
The queens aren't actually over here, so a couple of drones even come out, but there's no queens to transfuse, so Roach is immediately going to get picked off, then the drones. This Oval, or this Nidus Swarm, I don't think is spotted just yet for Dark, so it's pretty close, but the Lings get there. Still no queens actually coming on out, though.
You're absolutely right, Ravi. Where are the transfuse? They finally pop out, and this time position. Creep Tumor goes down, Spore Crawlers as well, and all the rest. He's going to be able to get a nice position. That's a lot of +1 melee Zerglings. My gosh. Dark delaying his Mutas for so long. Serral was so worried about the Mutas, but it's actually the Mass Ling that's going to defend this.
Yeah, a couple more Roaches are popping on out, but now the Spine Crawlers are done. They're even helping out versus Roaches. Now the Mutas come out, and there is no hope with no Queens over here of breaking through those 3 Spine Crawlers with just a handful of Roaches. Dark defends handily so far. A few Queens are out over here. Those drones are going to need to become Spore Crawlers ASAP, but Dark just seems like he already has all the tools he needs to start pushing this back.
Yeah, this was just great trades by Dark. The melee Zerglings there en masse. I mean, his mutas were really late. I think Serral was worried about quick, fast mutalism. He was kind of in this mode of trying to